Good afternoon. This is Quilt Festival in Houston, Texas, in 2015. I'm Mark Dunn, and I'm here to talk about some of the quilts in my exhibit. I have a large exhibit here showing a lot of my antique quilts and how Moda Fabric makes our fabric. What I want to show you first is what I call collections for a cause. We take antique quilts, which this is a good example of one that was from 1846, and it's in very good condition, but we buy it because of the colors and the design or something that we can reproduce. So then we reproduced it over here, the same basic design, and we tried to keep it as much like the original as possible. Of course, it's very hard to exactly reproduce it. You have to let it age for 100 years or so, and then it'll look a lot more like the original. So we donate the funds that we raise from these quilts to a cause, usually some cause that's in the industry, like quilt museums, like the National Quilt Museum, or the Alliance for American Quilts, or other people in the industry who try to promote our industry rather than the national big companies like American Heart Association or something that choose the smaller companies to donate to. So quilters are a community of people who do things for their community and for each other, and we're also believe in that policy and try to practice it in our company. This is an exhibit showing how screen prints are produced and what it looks like in step-by-step production. Each one of these screens, it shows you a different process by which the color is applied to the fabric. The first screen here is the black colorway in the fabric, and you can see here how it's black where it printed on the fabric. And then as you can see it up here in the design, the edges of the fabric are kind of curvy like that. It's called a joint line, and it's sort of like a puzzle where it has to meet like this together. Otherwise you would see a straight line dividing where these screens meet and so forth. So each one of these has a joint line from one to the next. So the second screen here shows you the red color that's been laid down, and then the third lays down the black background, let's say, and the fourth puts more brown on the print, and the fifth and sixth lay more brown down. So you can usually tell by looking at the bottom of the quilt. There'll be little dots, or sometimes we put stars, or we put frogs, or whatever little things down there that show you the colors that were used to print and at what order they were printed in to make the design. It's done by one of our designers called Luke. Luke is kind of a famous new male designer and quilter, like Richard Towns, if you know Richard Towns, or Luke is sort of in that same category.
Hi, I'm Luke Haynes. I'm one of the newest designers with Moda. In the project you see behind me here is what I've done of Mark Dunn, the owner, for their 40th year anniversary. So it's a fun project that I got to do with my own work, all out of Moda Fabric, before I even came along as a designer. And so now I'm working with the company and producing my own fabrics in this new line that I've got. So I'm able to bring some of the aesthetic from Moda and some of my own work and kind of make a nice marriage of it.
Hello everyone, this is a quilt I made for the Making of Moda exhibition. It is an oversized selvage quilt that we digitally printed, and it has all of our 42 current designers that have shipped into 2015. And what we did is we started with the oldest running designer, which is Sandy Gervais, and went down showing the progression of longest running to newest. So I made it in this kind of V form to kind of have a more fun aesthetic look. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
This quilt is called Common Threads. It's by my daughter, Erin Michael Dunn. She did this quilt as an art quilt to show the history of my company in an art form. And beginning up here in 1975, she shows my picture signing the original papers to start my company. And as the company progressed, you can see the The company colors were at that time brown and white was kind of our theme as far as the look of the Southwest, and that's where we kind of started. Originally we were selling more notions than we were quilting. Quilting was just a small portion of our business in 1975. It was more, sewing was more popular than quilting. And so as the decades changed, so did the product mix, and so did things come along, like beginning in here, quilting kits came along, and so forth. And finally the rotary cutter, which we all know was one of the main things that kind of jolted us more into the quilting era. You can see here the quilting kind of calicos that were popular. They started making cotton quilts more accessible, and then it's phasing out of things like shoulder pads and things that are more sewing related. So as we progress down through here, you can see how the company changed and how we went into other kinds of fabrics of our own, and we started converting until at the bottom there we are now totally almost a fabric converter. We still carry sewing notions, but it's a small portion of our business. Today we're probably one of the top fabric converters in this industry, and Moda Fabrics is one of the best known names in our industry. The threads on here kind of depict trying to tie everything together, the common thread of sewing, transferring into quilting, and also threads are still a viable part of our business. You can't make quilts without it. This is a very unusual quilt by a lady named Noriko Endo from Japan. She didn't start quilting until she was in her late 60s, but she kind of developed a new technique to quilting that nobody else had previously done. What she did, first of all, was take a picture of something that she really liked, which was like a garden path through the forest in the fall with the leaves falling and so forth. And she took a photograph, and she used that as her inspiration for her quilt. What she did, which was different than anybody else, was she cut little strips of fabric, just tiny little strips, and then she would lay those strips on the cloth background in order to paint, so to speak, her design. Then once she had the strips laid like she wanted them and had a design like she wanted, she laid a fine layer of nylon net on top of that. If you look at the edge of the quilt, you can see and feel the netting that's on top of it. And then she would do another layer of fabric, if necessary, to correct some of the work. And she would do another layer of the fine netting. So you can't see the netting unless you get up very close. But it's quite a technique for a lady who had never ever quilted. But she developed this process, which was quite unusual and quite different. We call this the Lincoln Crazy Quilt, mainly because it has several images of Abraham Lincoln on it from when he was running for president. Back in the old days, they would make silk ribbons that they would hand out to people to try to get them to vote for it. And you'll see on here, there's one here of that Honest Abe right here. And then there's one here that's very rare that I've never seen before, with Abe without a beard. I don't know that I've ever seen him without a beard except for this picture on this quilt. There's also another picture of him after he was assassinated. There's a little ribbon that commemorates and his death. Then you can see here was a stitchery on here denotes the years it was begun and the year it was completed. And then here it was signed by the artist that did it. So also what I like about this quilt is back in the old days when they made crazy quilts, it was a way for a woman to show off her stitchery skills. And then, so this quilt has many types of stitchery skills on it, stitchery work. And usually they would do these and put them in the parlor in the house, so when the preacher came by or whatever, it was a conversation piece or whatever. And so a lot of times they were smaller than this. This is a good size one, but this is a very unique border on it, and it's a very, very fun quilt with a lot of things on it. Like the shamrock here, you don't know whether she might have had a little Irish blood in her or something to put the shamrock on here. But here's a oriental piece on here. So there's a kid fishing. So there's a lot of great little images on here, and you can study it for hours and find different things on it. I love crazy quilts. They're just fun and interesting. This is sort of a collection of unusual little small quilts. This one up here at the top is little leather. Back in the old days, they had little postcards that you could mail. They were on a little lightweight leather. And these were all sent to a lady named Lizzie, which was the wife of a salesman who traveled the road, and he would write on the back little love notes to Lizzie when he was out of town. So on the back side of there's lots of other writing and so forth. A lot of fun. So she would punch holes in them and patch them together and make a little quilt out of it. So it's just kind of an unusual one. I like unusual little things like that. This is a cigarette quilt, they call them, cigarette papers or cigarette silks. Back in the old days, the cigarette companies, in order to get people to begin smoking, would put these little cigarette silks in there and then get the women to want to collect them and so forth. And so that would help increase the sales of cigarettes. So this is the same up here. They made little ones from the different states of the Union so you can collect all the 50 states or something. This one has an unusual border with the fringe on it, which is kind of strange. And this is a little one-patch doll quilt, which is from 1850, and it's just kind of cute. I don't know, I guess you could play checkers on it or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's cute. So I like these eclectic little small pieces that have a story about them, and these all definitely have good stories. This is one of my favorite quilts, mainly because we have the stories that go with it. We have the documentation that backs it up, the town she lived in, and her parents and her family that are associated with it. The girl's name that did this was named Lydia Jimison. She was made this in 1882. She was 15 years old. This is called a charm quilt. No two pieces of fabric are the same. Every one, if you study it, you'll never find two fabrics the same on here. She made this when she was 15 years old. She was dying of spinal meningitis. Quite a story. Quite a love of quilting that she put into it. So it makes it one of my favorite quilts because of it. This is my favorite quilt here at the quilt show. It was just presented to me in the last week by the four ladies who spent 2,779 hours making it in my honor. They are really lovers of Moda fabrics, so they decided to make a quilt that used one piece of fabric from every collection that we'd ever made. It's like 1,061 different collections that we've done, and so they used one piece of fabric or more from every one of those collections. They stitched their names of all our designers around the borders here, every designer that's ever worked for us, and then they stitched on the back every collection we've ever made. They embroidered on the back. You can't see it at this point. It's hard to take that many different kinds of fabrics and tell a story but they did a great job of starting in the center with the lighter colors and so forth, and then expanding out to the darker colors and so forth, and kind of like telling a story. So 25 years of Mike making Moda fabrics, and these girls are really dedicated Moda fans, and obviously by working this hard and this long, these four ladies have really shown their love for my fabrics, which really breaks my heart. So, thank you. Thanks. Three of them live in Arizona, and one lives in Florida. And they pass the ideas back and forth and make it all happen. So, I'm very proud of them.